7 Action Sports Now. The University of Tennessee Chattanooga men's basketball schedule was revealed on Wednesday for the upcoming 2018-19 season. And with that schedule, head coach Lamont Paris said there are games that with this many new guys, there are games where the guys will get extended minutes and you get to feel what the entire roster can do and how they respond in a game atmosphere. Alex Ireland is preparing to lead the Dalton State Roadrunners through the upcoming basketball season. He was named interim head coach after Tony Ingle announced his retirement effective August 1st. Join Keon Rose and Nick LaFew. That's Thursday night at 7 p.m. for the Gridiron Gang Show live from Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. They'll be talking high school football with various coaches and media colleagues. That's Thursday night at 7 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM. Stop by and check out the various specials that they have at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Action Sports Now.
Nooga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nooga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nooga Radio.
Good morning. Good people here in the city of Chattanooga. It's Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show. That's right. I'm back again. It's a beautiful day here in the city. Oh, man, y'all know what it is. I'm taking it from the streets to City Hall, from City Hall to the mayor's office. Can't leave out the police department. From the valley low to the mountaintop, giving you guys a bird's eye view to what's going on here in the city of Chattanooga. Good morning. Oh, man, today's show is going to be a knockout, drag out, because I'm covering a landmark case against the Hamilton County Department of Education. Oh, man, y'all might not have heard of the story, but I wanted to share it with you guys because the Hamilton County Department of Education has made a local family fight with them for 5+ years. Because they chose to discriminate against this beautiful family's son who has Down syndrome. Man, I keep telling you guys, we got to wake up and understand what's going on right here in our city. It's so much happening across the country, but we cannot be ignorant to what's happening right here in our backyard. I cannot believe that since 2009, that this family has been dealing with our educational department discriminating against their son. Let's get into it. It's called, the landmark case is LH versus the Hamilton County Department of Education. Again, that is LH versus the Hamilton County Department of Education. Y'all know what it is. Call in is 800-8949. We're streaming live on Facebook as well as YouTube. If you can't call in, feel free to drop a comment. But make sure you guys share this because this is an important story. And I certainly thank a Facebook friend of mine for forwarding me this story. And a shout out to Luca's parents. Man, I read the stories because for this family, understand what it takes for you to fight a case like this for 5 years. This is going back and forth to federal court. Meanwhile, you're a parent, right? You still got to send your kid to school, your child to school, be concerned with their education, all the while fighting the public school system, which receives federal funding to ensure that a special needs student can not only not be discriminated against, but that they develop plans to ensure that the student is going to get absolutely everything that they need. That despite that they have a physical disability, that does not mean that they don't have the capacity to learn. That does not mean that they should be segregated and isolated into classrooms and not be given the opportunity to learn with students of all kinds. And I want to take it back, but let me first start with a quote from the illustrious Shirley Chisholm. And it is, "You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. And Lord knows, I'm grateful for Luca's parents. Man, I can't imagine the tears that they probably cried. The times where they hit the pillow and they were frustrated because they had to go to court this day, knowing they had to go back to court the next day. They're spending money for their child's education because they had to pull Luca. Our school system was so trash. They had to pull Luca from the public school system and put him in the Montessori school. When I say y'all need to share this video today, share this information today, look it up yourself, I want you guys to understand that we can't just send our children to school and expect that the teachers are qualified, that the principal cares, that they're not getting bullied by teachers, that teachers aren't putting their best foot forward into lesson plans and development. We can't just let our children's hands go and send them off into the schoolhouse and then be frustrated maybe when they get written up or they bring home terrible grades without asking questions and ensuring that the public school system that they're going to is providing them the absolute best opportunity to get an education. It's a shame that a family would have to fight 5 years. I want y'all to think about that because Luca now is 15 years old. He's 15 years old, meaning he's just a few short years away from becoming an adult. And maybe I hope that he has the desire to either go to college or do something great because he can. Luca, if you ever hear this, you can do anything that you want to be, anything that you want to be. I mean that, baby. I'm sure your mama tells you that all the time. I'm sure your daddy tells you that all the time. Luca, you could be anything you want to be. And don't let anybody tell you different because they look at you and see that you are different. Being different is such a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. A shame on the Hamilton County Department of Education, not only putting this family through 5 years of fighting in court, but acting like it was okay when the parents didn't agree with the lesson plans that the teachers were developing. They questioned everything that was going on because Luca was getting written up. Luca was getting put in the back of the class. Luca was getting isolated from other students. Luca got taken out of a mainstream. And I'm going to break down some of these terminologies in just a second. From a mainstreaming class, what that means that even though he has a disability, he has the opportunity to be in a regular classroom and learn just like a regular student, but he has his own specially developed lesson plan, which has goals to ensure that at every grade level, he is learning properly. Folks, 5 years? I can't believe that the Hamilton County Department of Education even fought these parents. What is wrong with you? You telling me that these folks had to spend $7,500 every year to send their child to a private school because they were forced to pull their child out of a public school because you weren't giving that special child the tools that he needed to learn. And then you decide for 5 years to spend $20,000 per attorney to fight this family and keep them not only from ensuring that this doesn't happen to another student, but they can't even get reimbursed on having to spend their doggone personal funds to provide Luke a proper education because that's what parents are supposed to do. Y'all, I'm sure if you seeing me talk about this, I'm on one because it is disgusting. And if we remember, I'm going to take y'all back just a second. If we remember, it wasn't too long ago that we had 2 Hamilton County school board members say that they rejected the ideation that our schools needed to be racially and economically integrated. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that? This is pitiful. This is pitiful. And I commend Dr. Johnson for the work that he's trying to do, that the majority of the people who were involved in this case, who were involved from teachers to administrators, were fired. But this still leaves me with little hope for our public educational system, because what that says is, unless a parent has the money and the time, and how can they do that when we have created such a disadvantage and inequities here in this city, that a lot of parents are having to work 2 jobs just to be able to make it? How can they ensure that their children are not being discriminated against when they go to school? But we already know that that happens, right? We already know that all of the opportunity schools are predominantly Black schools. Do we not even see, just on the basis of color, that our schools are segregated? It is statistical. It is factual. That by integrating schools, and it's not just, when we think about integration, we just think about black and white, or race. It's bigger than that. When children have the ability to be in a classroom with kids who are older than them, who are different than them, whether it's different race, whether it's their special abilities, right? Whether it's their different socioeconomic status, it is the ability to go into a classroom and see a large amount of diversity that encourages a student that often would be segregated and isolated, the ideology and the ideation that they can be more than who they already are, or what society tells them that they can be. But when we have school board members like Thurman and Smith, who don't even think that we have problems like this, is it any surprise that we end up in situations like this? Man, I am so sorry to Luca's parents. I am so sorry to Luca. I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm so sorry. I'm apologizing, and it's not even my fault. I'm sorry that you, first of all, as a parent, if anybody from Hamilton County Department of Education is listening, let me enlighten you on something. First of all, never piss a mother off. Let me say that again. First of all, you better never piss a mother off about her children. If she's a good woman and she loves her children or her child, she will walk in the snow barefooted to make something happen for her child. You better believe when I'm talking, when I'm saying this, you better believe me. Don't you ever think. But the problem is that our school system bullies parents by, first of all, making them feel like they don't know their own children. Excuse me. Can we say no? You know your child in and out. You know when they lying. You know when they tell the truth. You know when they upset. You can see it on their face, even if they don't open up their mouth. If you a good parent and an attentive parent, you know your child in and out better than they do. So to, first of all, ignore. Now, these Luca's parents were so determined to make sure that he got a proper education that they helped the Hamilton County Department of Education formulate his independent educational plan. Pause. Because I want y'all to think about that for just a brief second. These parents who probably work and do other things are so invested in their child's education, they were going to take additional parts of their personal time to develop a lesson plan and expectation for their son. If that's not dedication, show me what is. If that's not intent, show me what is. If that's not determination, that just because Luca has Down syndrome does not mean he cannot succeed. Show me what is. Show me what is. And so what we have here, Lord have mercy. Luca started off at Normal Park. And let me say that school's name. Luca started off at Normal Park because I hear people say things like Normal Park is like this beautiful, great school, and Normal Park is this, and Normal Park is that. Understand that discrimination just doesn't happen in the Black community. It doesn't happen just against Black students. It could be a situation where your child legitimately has a physical disability and they can go to these schools, and if these schools don't have proper staff, if these schools don't respect the law, Section 504 of the Disability Act, if they don't respect the fact that because public schools receive federal funding, that they have an overwhelming obligation to ensure that students who have special needs and special disabilities get absolutely everything that they need. If the faculty is not invested in something like this, the educational department is not invested in something like this, if the teachers who are teaching are not even qualified, then I want you guys to ask yourselves, what do we expect? So Luca started at Normal Park, and he started off in a mainstream class. And so when you hear that term, what does mainstream mean? It is mainstream. It means that a school is putting children with special needs into classroom with peers that have no disability. This is done during specific times in the day based on their skills. At other times, a special needs child may be studying in a resource room or self-contained class. In that environment, the student has access to more one-on-one time with special education teachers and aides. So in reality, Luca should have been spending about 3.5 hours per day in a mainstream class. Why? Because Luca, just because he has a disability, doesn't mean that he shouldn't have the opportunity to learn with people who don't have disabilities. First of all, he needs to make friends. He needs to learn how to make friends and talk to people and be okay, because the world is filled with a lot of people who don't have disabilities. And let me say one thing. Part of the reason why people are invested in their children, if parents would be honest with themselves, they know that they're not going to live forever. So part of raising your child right is because of the simple fact that one day you're going to have to turn them loose. You're going to have to turn them loose into the world, and they got to know how to survive. You're not always going to be there for them. And so I'm sure Luca's parents were looking ahead to ensuring that when Luca, whether he went to college or whether Luca got grown, that Luca could survive and be okay and not be intimidated by his disability, but use his disability as a foundation for success. And so what we find here is the Hamilton County Department of Education, in cahoots with these pitiful teachers, decided that they were going to decide what type of education Luca should have. 800-8949 if you want to call and chop it up with me. 800-8949. But it got so bad that they removed Luca from the mainstream class, put him in an isolated, segregated class, where not only was he not meeting the prerequisites for the next grade, but the teachers were so lazy, they dumbed down his educational plan to a kindergarten level, regardless of the fact that the young man was in third grade. They were so lazy and so not invested, not only in Luca's education, but what his parents had to say, that they rolled the clock back to make it easy on themselves, costing Luca his education. and the parents, tired of fighting, going back and forth, they were forced to leave Normal Park and go to Red Bank to an even more segregated class and pitiful program. They just got fed up and decided to send him to the Montessori school and spent 5 years going back and forth with the Department of Education, back and forth to federal court. And thank God that we had some judges with some sense, with some compassion, starting with Judge Collier, who ruled that Luca's rights to a proper education were violated and that he was discriminated against. But Judge Collier did not believe that the parents should be compensated for having to pull their child out of school and send him to private school. And so in the recent appeal that they approved, thank God, another judge decided to not only uphold the discrimination, but the judge decided that they should be reimbursed for the additional monies that they had to spend. Folks, you better get involved in your children's education. I commend the program that is quite a coincidence, if you ask me, but I will give it some praise, of diversity and inclusion that Dr. Johnson is implementing. But folks, just because they started a program, which is great, that don't mean that you need to take your eyes off of your children's education. You better make sure that your child is getting the best proper education that we can afford for them. Because that's your tax dollars, folks. Oh, man. Luca, you are my neighbor. You are my neighbor. And baby boy, you better believe you could be anything that you want to be. I pray your success, young man. You got this thing under control. And shout out to your parents who decided to work tirelessly to ensure that you got a proper education. You guys stay tuned for the second half of the segment.
Three, two, one.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McClarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric, you're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all three races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nuga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
I got got my business up and running and it's already expanding. I got lucky. Lucky because I found Signal Voice and Data. Signal Voice and Data can incorporate all of my business information sharing and communications seamlessly, keep my costs down, and let me work more productively with endless connectivity no matter where I might be. That's called working smart, not hard. Go to signalvoicetn.com and bring the future of communication to your business today. signalvoicetn.com.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Hey, Karen, you need me for that 1 o'clock?
Yes, Cheese, please. Karen, did you get the quarterlies done? Yep, they're filed in the cabinet.
Karen, can you describe the initiatives to the new hire? Thanks.
Oh, sure. Full-bodied, some floral notes, maybe a hint of dark chocolate.
Am I in the right department?
Got wine on the mind? Come unwind at Virgola. Italian wine, oysters, caviar, cheeses, and more. Perfect after work or a romantic date night. Virgola Italian Wine Bar, 608 Georgia Avenue.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks? Even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, Brainerd Road. Chattanooga weather.
It's got lots of sunshine and gorgeous weather out there for your afternoon. High settling into the lower 80s. Tonight, clear, comfortably cool again. Lows 58 to 61. For Friday, another great looking day. Lots of sun. Highs into the mid 80s with dry and warmer weather for the weekend. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's. Home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily. Locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm Soar Jeans Walsh, meteorology pastor for
The Radio 92.7.
Oh, it's the Marine Mott Show, and we're back again for the second half of the segment. Man, the first half of the segment had me on fire because I cited a case, LH versus the Hamilton County Department of Education, where a young man was discriminated against for years and was not provided a proper education just because he had a disability. Man, please, y'all, please look up the case. The family won. And again, shout out to Luca's parents for being so dedicated on a 5-year journey to ensure that their son was acknowledged in front of the world. This is a landmark case for Hamilton County and for other students, because this ruling is not just for the state of Tennessee, but it's also for states like Kentucky, I believe Oklahoma. So this has the ability to impact students in other states. Folks, I'm telling you, you better be interested and invested in your children's education. And just because they get written up or just because they come home and they don't have decent grades does not mean that they aren't trying their best. It does not mean that they're bad. In a lot of instances, these teachers are either not qualified to teach. We're that desperate for teachers. We'll almost hire anybody. Or either not qualified to teach. Some of them do the bare minimum just to keep a job. We're barely hanging afloat. We're hanging by a thin thread when it comes to public education. And so we really should be kind of start looking at alternatives. People talk about charter schools, but Jesus Christ, I see some of these charter schools like the Chattanooga Girls Leadership Academy. CGLA is doing great. Yeah, you can talk about charter schools all you want, But is our public school doing any better? I say no. We should be looking at just about any other option. Homeschools. But anyway, please make sure you go back and look at that case. But we're about to get into a story. Man, when I say I received like 2 or 3 stories last night, I was like, dang, tomorrow's show is going to be off the racks. Because someone sent me a video of a bounty hunter that threatened to enter the dwelling of a family's home, that if they didn't open the door, that he would tear it down. And so they let him in, and he came in with a pistol drawn, supposedly looking for a fugitive. And I'm grateful that the young man recorded it. And one of the things that he had the young man to do, and see, this is why folks want to know why I do Know Your Rights Fridays. And tomorrow is, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. Tomorrow is Know Your Rights Friday. Y'all better tune in tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to be talking about jury nullification, right? Oh, man, it's going to be a good show tomorrow. But this is why I do Know Your Rights. Because a lot of us, what little we know is really, it's enough in some instances, but we should have a desire to know more. Okay? So knowing that somebody needs a warrant to either search your premises or enter into your car or your dwelling is not just important. You got to understand, what part of the Constitution does that come from? Right? So we can see not only the small picture, but the bigger picture. Because I saw the young man who wrote the header of the video state that they didn't have a warrant. But often what we find being done is that we're pressured into giving up our rights. And so the whole reason for me continuously pounding rights, know your rights, is not so that you just know them and that's where the buck stops. It's so that you know them so well, you see the small picture and the bigger picture. So when the time comes, if it comes, you can assert your rights. Do y'all understand what that means? So not just knowing is not just enough. Asserting them with confidence that you know what you're talking about and that you know it's true because you've read it over and over and over again. Okay? So, yes, you have to have a warrant before anybody could come. So the first thing I'm going to say, and this is not against the young man who opened the door and the young man who complied because the guy said he was going to shoot him or would shoot him. Please, if you're listening, I hope you still call in. It's 800-8949 for the call in. You have to know that when you're pulled over, right? When you're stopped walking, or even when you're at home with your shoes kicked off and you're just chilling because it's been a long day. If you get a knock on the door, the first thing I want you guys to do, of course, is to ask, who is it? If they say that they're police or somebody who have some close or long distance relationship with the police, ask to see what paperwork they have signed by a judge. Ask them for it. Where's your warrant? And if they are more intent on threatening you, close the door. I don't care if somebody said that they were going to shoot me. They're going to have to do it. Or at least they're going to have to try. And I ain't going down without a fight. Now, we ain't even going to talk about why I believe people should not only be armed, but formally trained time and time again on operating weapons. I don't see anything wrong with children knowing how to respect weaponry and know how to shoot. Right? Now, you may not agree with me. You may say, oh my God, my child doesn't need to know about guns. And if your child knows how to respect weaponry and you have a conversation, it's less likely they'll probably play with a gun and shoot themselves or harm somebody with it if you have them. You see, we're so timid about sensitive issues like that. But you have a right to protect yourself and your family in your own personal house. Your house is your castle. As much as we would like to believe that we're free and we should be free, and I'm constantly fighting for you to chip away at the chains that society has placed on us by, first of all, keeping us ignorant of our rights and the Constitution and what it says in the Bill of Rights. So that when you move about in this world, that you move about as a free being, a free individual, because that's your constitutional right to do so. But at the least, while we're chipping away at slavery in the forms of ignorance and people just steamrolling over our rights, we should, at the least, protect the castle. You can't convince me otherwise, folks. Your house is your castle. And it should be a moat around it. Now, I'm not saying you need to go out and get barbed wire. Don't go nuts. But you should have a means of protecting yourself in the event. Because obviously, folks are not respecting people's rights. The young man asked if the bounty hunter had a warrant, and he decided to threaten them. Let me say this again because I said it last week. The goal of police and even some of the people who are distant cousins or relatives of law enforcement, the goal of them is to cunningly coerce you out of your constitutional rights. And again, that's why I said yesterday on the show when folks said, you know, Marie, when you say things about race or different things like that, you're just spewing hate. I don't hate nobody. I'm firmly invested in each and every one of you having the best life possible, us building up a local economy, you knowing what your rights are, teaching your children what their rights are, so we don't get cunningly coerced out of our constitutional rights. And then we can stop the BS head on and prevent ourselves from having a situation where A, we end up in jail with no possible way of walking away scotch-free, or B, we don't send a message to people that we're not stupid and that we know what we're talking about. And not only do we know, we stand firm in asserting the fact that we know. So the whole reason for a warrant is the basis of probable cause. And so the moment you decide that because either you're threatened or you're frustrated to let somebody search your vehicle, to let somebody put their hands in your pocket when they stop you, or they ask you, do you have any weapons? This is why I continue to state, answer people's question with a question. Oh, we got somebody calling in. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me.
Good morning, Maria. It's David Tulis.
Hey.
Hi, just want your listener to know I posted just 5 minutes ago a story about Corey Javon Craddock and the bounty hunter breaking into his house or his grandmother's house and assaulting him with the weapon. And I've just now tuned in. I'm not sure if you're talking about that particular case, but the bounty hunter pretends to be a police officer.
I did. That is the story that I'm covering.
Yes, well, if he is intending to be a police officer, he's violating numerous rules that would control a real officer in a case like that, in a search for a person. And the officer would have to have a warrant for that person's arrest, and he would not use the level of threat that he does, that the bounty hunter does in this video, in these two videos. He would not have his weapon out because there's no threat to him. And also, he would not be using profanity. That seems to be disallowed by the ethics rules of the department. And then the third point is he would not be asking for IDs of the people in the room, because the law allows him to make that demand for identification only if he's about to arrest someone. Only if he's charging someone does he have the authority to demand and get either by oral presentation or a document, the identification of the person he is arresting. So that's the limit on his arrest powers or ID demand powers, is if he's arresting someone. Well, listen, thanks much. Just the website is Nuganomics.com. That's the sponsor of my show. Marie and your listener may want to read the story about Corey Javon Craddock and his ordeal. He said he was terrified. So thanks a lot, Marie. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, David. Y'all, when I say that we got to know our rights in and out, this is why. And these were young men. These were young men. And so when I talk about you as, if you're listening, you're a parent or you're a grandparent or you're an aunt, you're an uncle, you're a pastor, you're over the YFD centers. And I don't care who you are. You got to know your rights. And then we have to really start teaching our children, teaching the youth what their rights are. Because these young men found themselves being, now, the first thing is that I want to say is that you can't trust a badge. This bounty hunter, if you look at the video that's on the Nuga Radio page, the bounty hunter had a badge on. There are people who will impersonate an officer by having certain things just so instances like this can occur. And shucks, even police officers. When we talked about Malik Sanford a couple of weeks ago, they searched his car without his permission when he got pulled over. So, folks, don't think, I continue to tell you, because we continue to have instance after instance after instance, and then it says a lot when we begin to have these instances. For this time, it wasn't the Chattanooga Police Department. But still, this is why it's important for you, because people are not going to respect you. It's just, I don't know how else to say it, but the respect for the private citizen has long since disappeared in this American society. And it seems as if, especially when we're talking about inner city, and it's even spreading out, unfortunately, into the outskirts, that the respect for the citizen, case in point, Constance Giles, that people are going through these situations where folks are abusing their rights. The whole premise of having a warrant is so people can't forcibly enter into your dwelling place. And you do have the right, let me state this, you have the right to refuse people to search you. You don't have to let it happen. You see, we're not taught things like this. I continue to hear people say, well, if you just respect police. No, police should respect you. Especially when we're talking about in the inner city. The police, again, the police do the municipal police. The Chattanooga Police Department does not serve the people. That is a misconception. Misconception. Again, Warren versus the District of Columbia states in a landmark case in the Supreme Court that it is not the responsibility of the police officer in the city to protect or aid the individual, but only to protect the city at large. And so when we look at things like this, and we continue to see where our constitutional rights are steamrolled over, like in the case of Angela Moore with Officer Michael Wenger, and Police Captain Sergeant McPherson suppressing evidence, tampering with evidence, brutalizing and beating the young man into a confession, assaulting and steamrolling over every constitutional right a person has. We got to change our thinking. If we change our thinking and what we have been trained and told, we have not been taught to be free. Let me say this again in case you missed me. We have not been taught and trained to be free. We have been taught and trained to be submissive. And that if we respect the officer enough, nothing will happen to us. And that continues to be a lie. The officer should pull up to us with respect. Why? Because as a private citizen, I have so many rights. He should be afraid to flick a cigarette butt my way. He should be so scared that I might take that as he's trying to intimidate me. He should be so afraid, or she as well, that if they sneeze the wrong way, that I feel that my constitutional rights have been threatened. But they don't have that type of respect for you. And they don't have that type of fear. Why? Because a lot of them don't even know the Constitution. So we don't know it. They don't know it. And it is absolutely no wonder why we continue to have these problems. The Constitution is your saving grace. We'll learn songs. We'll memorize all sorts of kind of stuff. I love quotes. I memorize quotes. My new job is to memorize the Constitution from start to finish. And if nothing else, at the least, I beg of you that you need to know the Bill of Rights, at least what all your rights are. If you don't feel that dedicated to learning the Constitution, at least know what your rights are. So this is just another example of why it's so important, folks. And as far as a warrant, that ties, and again, this is why I say it's all about the small picture and the bigger picture. That ties into your Fourth Amendment rights. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. And no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by an oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, the person to be searched, or the things to be seized. Meaning, now, we think that it's just our persons or our houses. This says papers and effects. It's why we got to read and why we have to know, folks. And even a warrant has particulars. So a warrant doesn't mean that people can just wander through your entire house and look in all your drawers and cabinets. And no, they have to have a particular reason of why they're coming in and what they're looking for. Fourth Amendment, folks. Y'all know what it is. It's Thursday. We're going to have Keon Rose and Nick LaFew tonight at the North Shore Starbucks with the Gridiron Gang starting at 7. And y'all know what tomorrow is. Oh, yes. It is going to be one heck of a show. It's Know Your Rights Fridays, and we're talking about jury nullification. Y'all better tune in because I'm dedicated to your rights. Guess what? I love you, and it ain't nothing you can do about it. Y'all have a great day here in the city of Chattanooga.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Ottawa High School placed on lockdown after what SROs are calling